I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Friday, July the 15th, 2016. Israeli and Palestinian leaders joined the international community in their outrage and mourning over the deadly attack last night in Nice, France, that left at least 84 people dead, including 10 children, and dozens more injured. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the attack was a reminder that terrorism can strike anywhere and must be fought everywhere, and that Israel was united with the people of France and would offer any assistance needed. Israel's President Reuven Rivlin wrote to French President Francois Hollande that the Israeli people stand with the French people, shoulder to shoulder, in the face of this terrible evil, as should the whole free world. Rivlin said we must work united to reach the terrorists, their supporters, and backers wherever they may hide. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas wrote to the French leader as well and condemned last night's, quote, cowardly act in the strongest terms. Meanwhile, police in France have identified the man who last night drove into the crowds and then also shot at those gathered at Bastille Day celebrations at the resort city's Promenade des Anglais as a 31-year-old French-Tunisian citizen. He was shot and killed by police. France announced that the country would observe 3 days of mourning in light of the tragedy. Ynet reports that representatives of the European Union distributed a revision yesterday of the draft resolution at meetings of UNESCO's World Heritage Committee in Istanbul on the subject of Jerusalem. The revision was to the original resolution drafted by Palestinian and Jordanian delegates that was shelved earlier this week, as we reported to you, because not enough votes were assured its passage. The resolution caused an uproar from Israeli and American Jewish leaders as it ignores the Jewish connection to the Temple Mount. Israel's foreign ministry said yesterday that the EU revision was concerning and still disregarded the historical connection. The ministry said it, quote, nullifies the bond and relationship of the Jewish people to the Temple Mount. The EU has not yet officially released this version, and the foreign ministry said that Israel was still applying diplomatic pressure to stop it. Israel's chief rabbinate yesterday clarified that it does in fact recognize conversions to Judaism performed by New York Rabbi Haskell Lookstein, after a decision the previous day seemed to suggest the contrary. Lookstein has led Manhattan's congregation Kehilat Yeshurun since 1958 and is also the longtime leader of the Ramaz School. On Wednesday, the court refused to recognize a conversion performed by the rabbi last year of an American woman who was set to marry an Israeli Jewish man, ruling that the woman needed to undergo an expedited conversion under their auspices. After strong response from Israeli leaders and Jewish organizations here in the U.S., the rabbinate stated that their decision was in response to a specific incident and did not relate to conversions by Lookstein in general. Israel's Minister of Diaspora Affairs and Education, Naftali Bennett, responded that for dozens of years, Rabbi Lookstein has stood on the front lines, lovingly connecting people to Jewish tradition. He said instead of listening to the chief rabbis who acknowledged and accepted Rabbi Lookstein and his work, the rabbinical court disgraced them. Bennett said, "We are working to strengthen the ties with Jews in the diaspora. This arbitrary move against a well-known Orthodox rabbi is an own goal, hurting the rabbinate and risking Israel's standing as a homeland for all Jews." The Anti-Defamation League yesterday also strongly condemned the rabbinate's decision, calling it a slap in the face to American Jewry. ADL CEO Jonathan Greenblatt said the rabbinate's ironclad control over life cycle issues in Israel has long been problematic, particularly its refusal to recognize the authority of non-Orthodox Jewish denominations. Greenblatt said this is damaging Israel's image as a home for all Jews. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu uploaded a new video to YouTube this week, urging Palestinian Authority President Abbas to denounce incitement and terrorism and to sit down with him to talk peace. In the video, Netanyahu notes several statements of incitement to terror made recently by Palestinian Authority officials and called on Abbas to fire them. He also urged Abbas to stop honoring terrorists and to stop making payments to terrorist families, calling on the PA leader to instead work towards tolerance and coexistence.
President Abbas, since over the past several years you have refused to meet with me and sit down and negotiate peace, I hope you'll hear this message. Every Israeli and Palestinian child deserves a life of hope, of tranquility, and opportunity. I will continue to work tirelessly for peace. It's time that you join this effort.
And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS, live Shabbat services are coming up at 6 o'clock from New York City's Central Synagogue. At 8 tonight, a concert from the 92nd Street Y of Elie Wiesel and music from his childhood. At 9, a discussion of the price for peace, followed at 10 by New Jewish Cinema, and at 10:30 it's Musica. And coming up right after this newscast tonight at 5:30, Rabbi Shlomo Riskin looks at this week's Torah portion. And that's the JBS News Update for Friday, July the 15th, 2016. I'm Teisha Bader. Shabbat Shalom.